Good morning, buenos dias, bonjour, ni hao, sin chao, what's up? It's me, Mr. Jordan. Today we're going to be looking at chapter 29 of The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. So first we'll do a brief recap and summary of the chapter. Then we'll get into some more deep analysis and do a closer line-by-line reading of some quotes. And finally we'll finish with a vocabulary that includes some of the context and definitions of the words from the chapter. First off, a brief recap of chapter 29 from The Handmaid's Tale. So in this short chapter, our narrator Offred is again in the commander's office playing Scrabble with him. And they have a brief exchange where she finds out that he knew about the saying, noliti te carbonum dos bastardus, so don't let the bastards get you down. And it's a kind of inside joke he had. And this also lets Offred know that the handmaid who is there before, the older of Fred, who committed suicide, was also visiting and spending time with the commander in his office. And this gives her this conflicted feeling of her not being the first one, but also understanding a little more clearly, her place in the household and the role she's fulfilling for the commander. She knows now it's a replaceable role. There have been others before her who were his mistress or concubine, and there can be others after. Let's get into a closer line-by-line reading of chapter 29. So there's this real tense, game-like, back-and-forth cat-and-mouse thing happening between the commander and Offred in this chapter. And they exchange a lot of terse and sort of witty banter and dialogue. And a lot of it revolves around the words and the different games they're playing, both in Scrabble and also in the power dynamics of Gilead. So we're told, as for the commander, he's casual to a fault tonight. Jacket off, elbows on the table. All he needs is a toothpick in the corner of his mouth to be an ad for rural democracy, as in an etching. Fly-specked, some old burned book. So it's as if he's reacting out the past, right? This old role of someone from a different century in America. And maybe that's, after all, what he wanted. Maybe the idea of these people who took control of America and turned it into Gilead was one of nostalgia, of looking back, wishing for a different gilded era of America. The squares on the board in front of me are filling up. I'm making my penultimate play of the night. Zilch, I spell, a convenient one-vowel word with an expensive Z. Is that a word, says the commander? We could look it up, I say. It's archaic. I'll give it to you, he smiles. So you really get from the way they're talking now that there's a different casualness to their exchange. Maybe not friendliness, but certainly comfort, normalcy. This is becoming routine. He leans back, fingertips together, a gesture familiar to me now. We have built up a repertoire of such gestures, such familiarities between us. He's looking at me, not unbenevolently, but with curiosity, as if I am a puzzle to be solved. It's this layered idea, right? Not only are they playing a game, Scrabble, literally, but Offred, the narrator, feels she's a game, right? She's part of a bigger, larger context game that the commander is playing in his household and his life. What would you like to read tonight, he says. This too has become routine. So it's almost like she's like his pet or his kept woman, right? It's a very sort of stilted, derogatory, unfun place to be for Offred, where she has this new relationship with him, but he's kind of toying with her at the same time. While I read, the commander sits and watches me doing it, without speaking, but also without taking his eyes off me. I think there's some broader allusions to other things here too, right? Reading is this illicit activity, right? Reading and pornography are the things that have been banned, and now here he is, watching her do it. This watching is a curiously sexual act, and I feel undressed while he does it. I wish he would turn his back, stroll around the room, read something himself. Then perhaps I could relax, take my time. As it is, this illicit reading of mine seems a kind of performance. So Atwood's obviously directly thinking of the male gaze here, and also this idea that she's performing for him. Offred is performing for Fred, the commander, whether she wants to or not. By the nature of their power dynamic, she must always be performing. There is no natural self, no unperformative act that she can do when she's in the room, because she's on a stage or a playing field where the rules have been created by him and his peers. I force a smile, right? She's forced. Everything she does is being controlled. But it's all before me now. I can see why she wrote that on the wall of the cupboard. But I also see that she must have learned it here in this room. So now we're discussing the handmaid that came before Offred, thus the other or last Offred. Where else? She was never a schoolboy. With him, during some previous period of boyhood reminiscence, of confidences exchanged, I've not been the first then to enter his silence, play children's word games with him. What happened to her, I say? He hardly misses a beat. Did you know her somehow? Somehow, I say. She hanged herself, he says. Thoughtfully, not sadly. That's why we had the light fixture removed in your room. He pauses. Serena found out, he says, as if this explains it. And it does. There's a lot being left unsaid here, right? Like this, the theory of dialogue as being just the tip of an iceberg, and all the real emotional weight and ballast is hidden under the water. That's definitely at play, and Atwood is very skillfully weaving and choosing her words here. Offred tells us, what I have on him is his guilt at last. So she's looking for where her edge is, where she can take power, how she can use this moment to her advantage. And it's in that she now knows he's guilty about the last Offred, the previous handmaid, dying, committing suicide, and he wants to prevent her from doing the same. What would you like, he says, still with that lightness, as if it's a money transaction merely, and a minor one at that. Candy, cigarettes. He's trying to buy her off, right? He's giving her hand lotion, he's giving her magazines, he's giving her books, and he just wants her to stay there. So now he's kind of begging, right? What can I give you to make you stay? Do you want some pop? Do you want some candy? Yeah, right? It's cloying. That's what he is. Besides hand lotion, you mean, I say? Besides hand lotion, he agrees. I would like to know. It sounds indecisive, stupid even. I say it without thinking. Know what, he says. Whatever there is to know, I say. But that's too flippant. What's going on? Again, as often she does, Atwood finishes this chapter with a sharp sort of rebuttal / cliffhanger. And it's also a moment of truth or clarity where our narrator Offred is actually directly asking the commander, what's going on out there? What's happening in Gilead? I want you to tell me. And this also signifies for us, the reader, that she's now at a place where she feels she has enough leverage or power or confidence to put the question to him, to actually ask him, and to say she wants to know. In this world where her role is to be cut off and to know nothing, she's telling him she wants knowledge. She wants to taste the knowledge, and she's asking for it. Now for a little bit of vocabulary along with the context and definitions of the words in the chapter. Regimented. This means very strictly organized or controlled. A regiment is a division or a section of the army and how it's organized. But right out of the dictionary, it literally says, quote, the regimented life of a long-term prisoner. So you can see, Atwood's being explicit here. Offred's life has become regimented, just like a long-term prisoner. Everything is done in routine, in order, by a certain expectation, including her visits to play Scrabble with the commander. This is just another part of the regimen that she's being forced to live by. Zilch. So this is the word that Offred plays in Scrabble, and the commander isn't sure if it's real or not. And zilch, of course, is American slang for nothing, for zero, nada. They knew absolutely zilch. And so we see that's kind of where Offred is. Zilch, right? She has nothing. She knows nothing about this world, and she wants to know what's going on. Approbation. So the quote is, his approbation laps me like a warm bath. And so this means to approve formally or to sanction. And it's used in regards to an actual casual event, which is their game and her playing a certain word in Scrabble. But it also gives this greater insight to what Atwood is saying, is that he's the one, the commander, who approves formally or sanctions all of Offred's actions and choices and life decisions. And so being in this approval of the commander, this power is sort of irresistible. It laps over her like a warm bath. Famished. So we hear that she's famished. If she was eating, it would be like a famished person, gluttonously ravishing all the food before her. In other words, this moment in the office, no matter how much she wants to resist the commander, it's literally like food for the starving. She gets the magazine, she sees the Scrabble board games, and she wants to eat it all up. She wants to take as much of it in as she possibly can, because the rest of her life lived as a prisoner is so famished. It's just her starving for anything, for knowledge, for knowing, for food, for thought, for words. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Mr. Jordan. I hope you liked the video. Ask any questions or comments below. Next time we'll be looking at Chapter 30, The Handmaid's Tale. Thanks so much. Take care.